Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is our February 2017 edition of our Teacher Success webinar series. And today we're going to be exploring sources of practice coding problems. So hopefully this will be of great use to you in your classroom. Some quick introductions first. My name is Chris Just. I'm the president of CompuScholar. I've spent quite a few years in the software engineering role in the industry. So I've written lots and lots of code and sat in many cubes and conducted many interviews and that sort of thing. I'm also the co-author of the curriculum here at CompuScholar, and I've spent about 9 years doing that sort of thing with CompuScholar. So if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to me directly. We've got my email address here at the bottom at chris.just@compuscholar.com. And I love talking with teachers, so don't be bashful about reaching out if you have any questions or would like to chat about anything that we talk about today. So before we get started, just wanted to level set everybody with a few ground rules. So I've gone ahead and muted all of the participants, so that will eliminate some background noise. We do encourage questions throughout the presentation. So if you have a question, just drop it into the chat window and that will show up for me, and we'll do our best to get that answered. We are recording this session and plan to post the recording online at our Teacher Success page. So don't do anything you wouldn't want to read about in the newspapers tomorrow, so to speak. And in the unlikely case that we have some sort of technical difficulties that we can't resolve within a few minutes, rest assured that we will complete the remainder of the presentation offline and record that and still post it on our Teacher Success page. And that way you can review it later. All right, so I've mentioned the Teacher Success Program a few times. Just wanted to recap what that's all about. So CompuScholar really wants to partner with teachers throughout the school year. So we don't want to sell curriculum to you and then walk away and hope that everything goes well. So this is part of our commitment to providing some ongoing professional development and enrichment opportunities for you as the teacher. And we're really doing it for you. So obviously we welcome your feedback and your suggestions. If there's a particular topic you would like us to insert into the series, we'd love to hear about it. If you have any other comments regarding the format or the content, please do let us know. All right, so today, as I mentioned, we're going to be exploring some sources of practice coding problems. So we'll talk about that a little bit in the context of our curriculum. What does it mean to integrate and use those in the curriculum? And then we'll focus first on Java, and then we'll take a look at some C# options, as well as 1 or 2 theoretical sites that we can use across any language. Now, in each one of our Teacher Success webinar programs, we will reserve some time at the end for a little mini CompuScholar forum. This will give us a chance to make some announcements, also give you a chance to ask questions about CompuScholar or any of the curriculum or anything that you think we can answer that is not really germane to the topic that we're talking about today. So we'll definitely reserve some time there at the end. I do hope you have some questions or that some come up during the presentation. So again, just drop those into the chat window as you go along. All right, so let's advance to the curriculum context. So right now within CompuScholar's course material, there are 2 different ways that you can get exercises and activities. One are work with me exercises within the lessons, and these are something that we've recently added to some of the Windows programming with C# and the Java programming course. So you can always check individual lessons for those work with me exercises. Those are not intended to be graded or submitted to the teacher, but are something that the students can complete in a hands-on manner directly after reading the lesson. Right now, there's probably 15 to 20 of those scattered throughout each of those courses, and we are working towards expanding that. So you'll find one of those work with me's in just about every lesson coming up soon. The other thing that we have are the chapter activities. So 1 or more activities within every chapter are the hands-on coding projects that the students will use, and those are submitted to the teacher for grades. So we're not going to be talking about either one of those things today. Instead, we're really looking at additional practice problems, and these are things that you might want to assign to students for homework, or if you feel that certain students need extra help or extra challenge, or you just really want to provide a lot of additional practice for students, then we're going to look at these additional practice problems. And really, as you'll see, there are many of these things that are freely available online. So they're almost commodities at this point, and they're not things that are really unique to a publisher or a curriculum or a set of alignments. So that's one of the reasons we don't necessarily bundle, lots and lots of practice problems into the courses themselves. Is because they're so easy to find online, and we'll show you how to do that here today. Okay, give me one moment to make a technical adjustment here. Okay, great. So let's move on. And again, for those of you that are late joining, we love questions throughout, so don't hesitate to drop those into the chat window, and we'll answer those as they come up. But I did mute everybody just to make sure there's no background noise. Okay, so the online sources that we're going to be looking at today, some of them actually have built-in code editors and validators, so you can type in your code right there and run it within a web browser and see the results, and those are pretty cool. All of them are free. Some of them require you to register for a free account. You can do that at your discretion. But again, if you stumble on any site that's asking you to pay money, you are probably in the wrong spot, because there are many sites that will do this sort of thing for free. Some of the sites are not quite as complex. Well, they'll give you a simple list of problems and solutions, and you can use those as well. Just kind of cut out the problems and give them to your kids, and then hold on to the solutions yourself. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we'll show you quite a few links here to these websites. Some of them are fairly long and complex. So we're posting those links to our blog over at CompuScholar.com. So don't feel like you need to write down any of these links here or try and memorize anything. You can always pop over to our blog and find those links and just click on them live. And then the last little disclaimer is that CompuScholar really is not a partner with any of these sites. So we have no business relationship with them. They don't recommend us. We don't recommend them. We're just kind of showing them to you as a convenience to let you know what's out there. So we are not responsible for what you might find, and they may tend to change over time. That's the nature of these free sites. So with that disclaimer, let's get moving. Okay, so we're going to start with Java, and the 4 sites that I have listed here with Java are all actually sites that provide not only problems and solutions, but online code editors and validators that you can use and type in directly. So what we're going to do, if this works out, is I'm going to be switching back and forth, with my web browser and actually showing you these sites live. Let's go to the first one, hopefully. And this is CodingBat. So you can go to codingbat.com/Java. And it has both Java and Python exercises. You can log into this site if you want to, but I haven't done it. It doesn't really seem to be necessary. Let's go ahead and click on one of these categories and just pick one of them. So you can see you've got a problem here and some expected output, and it has pre-formatted a function for you that it wants to run. So you can just come in here and type in your output and then run it to see what happens. So I'm not going to expend the brain power to actually complete the exercise correctly here. So let's just return false, right? And then click go and see what happens. And so you can see CodingBat is actually running a number of tests here off to the side. Some of them I got lucky and passed, and many obviously I did not. So this is a great way for students to come over here and just try out small little snippets of code without going through the effort of creating a new class or working in a sandbox on their own computer. They can do that right here in the web browser. So this is pretty cool. And if we go back to the main Java list, you can see the problems are nicely categorized. So if you're working on strings in our curriculum, you can always come to the string area here and see a bunch of different problems. And I will point out as well that this site actually has some small tutorials built in as well. So if you look down here, we can go to Java for and while loops, for example, and it'll give you a mini explanation for how those things work. Now, obviously, you'll find the same sorts of thing within our own curriculum, but everybody likes alternate explanations, and there are many ways to explain these things. So you're always welcome to drive your students anywhere that you can find online that has an explanation that clicks with them. So this is CodingBat again. You don't need to log in to do anything. It's got many categories of increasing complexity. And this is a pretty popular resource for people that just want some extra coding problems. So that is CodingBat. The next one we'll look at is called Practice IT. And I have actually already created a free account here for myself. So we're going to start practicing. And we'll click on Building Java Programs 4th edition. And you can see again, there are a ton of different categories with many different exercises. And there's some other, it looks like they've drawn actually problems from a number of different resources here. So let's just go into primitive data, and I'm just kind of picking one at random here. So in some cases, these are almost more tests than coding problems. So what is the result of the following expression? There's an expression, you can pick your answer and submit to see if you're right. So some of them are not coding exercises so much as little quiz or test exercises, but I know some of them are coding exercises. Just going to click on a few at random. Here we go. So here's the problem: write nested for loops that produce the following output, and it gives you the output, and you could type out your solution here. And let's try and do that real quick. Write a nested for loop for int equals 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus, for j equals 0, j is less than 10. You're probably already laughing at me. A plus plus. Let's go up here and change this to 3 because that's how many rows we want. Okay. And then system.out print j. All right. So I'm not thinking about it too hard, but let's just see if that solution gives us anything close to what we want. Okay. So they're asking for triply nested for loops. And of course, now that they mention it, that sounds like a great idea. So let's do that. For int k equals 0, k is less than 3, k plus plus. All right, and we still want to print out I. Let's give that a try. Getting closer, but I didn't quite get it right because they want me to print something at the end here. Okay, and if this doesn't make it, I'll give up and move on, but you get the idea. Oh, I'm getting closer. All right. So obviously I didn't plan this far in advance, but this is an example of how your students can iterate very rapidly with these embedded code validators, just typing out fragments of code and then trying some things and seeing the results. So these are pretty cool little tools. And so this is the Practice IT or Practice IT website, and there's quite a few Java problems here. So again, this is a great resource. The next one we'll look at is w3resource.com. So this has exercises for a number of different languages. We're going to focus on Java here initially. So you can see there are Java exercises that are categorized here by topic. And let's do some simple data types. Maybe I'll get one of these right without thinking too hard. So the quirk about this website is when you want to go to the code editor, it's just going to drop you down to a single code editor here down at the bottom of the screen. And you really don't have any context for what you're supposed to write here. If we take a look at the solution for one of these, that's usually the best way to get started. So you can see the Java code that it wants you to write actually includes a class with a main method. So that's the way this online interpreter is going to work. It wants you to write that full class. So let's just cut and paste it. Go back in here, cut and paste, and then run and see what we get. Oops, didn't like the import. Let's get rid of that. So you can see it spun off a little virtual machine down here to actually run the class that you created. No, didn't like that either. So we would have hoped that the solution code would have worked correctly. Let me see if we can find another one real quick. This one looks straightforward. Oh, it actually has the code pasted right down here. Let's see if it runs. Time zone offset to GMT, -5. Current time is, we're in the Eastern time zone, so that's 4:51, so that actually works out very nicely. So that one actually worked. So as you can see, your mileage may vary a little bit here with the solutions, but again, this is a nice interactive way to build and run and test code, and they have many, many different exercises here. Let's go back to the main list. All right. The one thing you'll notice about this side is there's no automatic validation, so they're not checking your code to see if they're not checking your code to see if the output matched the program requirements. They're kind of leaving it to you as a teacher or as a student to mentally evaluate what you've done and make sure that that it's the correct solution. All right, so that is w3resource.com. Let's click over here. So this was the solution. That page. All right. The last Java example we'll look at is code step by step. And again, I've already created a free account here for myself. So let's click on Start Practicing and see what we can find. All right, great. So this particular site has examples for a number of different languages, C++, C, and Java, and Python, and so forth. So what we're going to focus on is Java. And let's take a look and see what they've got for loops. Okay, so again, this is a kind of a quiz style question. What is the output produced by each of the following code examples? So it's an exercise for your students to try and read and interpret existing code that's here. So you can type in your answers to each of these things and submit it, and it will let you know if you're correct or not. So that's one style of problem. And let's go down here looking for, here we go, code. So write a method named decimal to binary that accepts an integer as a parameter and returns an integers whose digits looks like that number's representation in binary. All right, so, and it's giving you some constraints here. Don't use a string, don't use a built-in base conversion, so they really want you to do this by hand. So let's see, write a method named decimal to binary and returns an integer. Okay, and we'll deliberately spit out a wrong answer. 42 is usually the answer to everything. So let's submit that and see if it will actually run our project. Okay, great. So in this example, we didn't actually have to fiddle with any sort of class wrappers or main method. The interpreter was comfortable in just picking up the fragment of code that we wrote and running it. And you can see it ran a number of different tests with different inputs. And to no surprise, my little example solution failed all of them. But this is comparable to the first 2 or 3 websites that we showed you, where super easy to write some code, test it out, and see what your results are, and then have that validated against the problem. So if we go back and look at the problems, again, console output, expressions, if then else, loops, all sorts of stuff. I imagine it's going to get pretty complicated. So if you really wanted to do recursion, for example, come in here. Oh, it's actually asking you to figure out what a recursive function is going to do. So that would be a good way for you to have your students tear their hair out a little bit. That's always a fun exercise. And the only thing that is more fun than trying to interpret a recursive function is creating one. And this is actually, as you can see, is a pretty significant challenge right now, where they're giving you some coordinates and a diagram and a bunch of different behavioral specifications, and you need to type out a full Java solution to this problem. And I'm obviously not going to attempt that here live, but this is definitely a way where you can really challenge your advanced students that are looking for more things to do. I mean, they can come out here and cut their teeth on endless numbers of problems like this that will keep them busy and entertained. Okay, so those are the 4 websites that we wanted to highlight from a Java perspective. Let me come back over here and take a quick pause, see if there's any questions on the Java examples. We did have one that came in while I was talking. There's a question about student privacy concerns. So is there any concern with student privacy if they have to create these websites and so forth? So these are all third-party websites. They don't belong to CompuScholar in any way. So each one of them will likely have terms and conditions that you need to click through in order to register your free account if you do want to create that account. Some of them will let you do some things without creating an account. You might choose, if the terms and conditions permit, to create an account for the classroom, and that way your students don't have to remember individual names and passwords. So certainly you can manage that to the extent that you need to. You can also just go look at the problems and transcribe them yourself and give them out to your students on pencil and paper or electronically, so they can code up the answers on their own computer. So you've got a lot of different options there in terms of student privacy. Does anybody else have any questions before I continue? I'm just going to double check my chat window. Okay, and I'll leave that up in case any come through. All right, I should also mention that the 4 sites I showed you, I deliberately picked these because they do have those built-in code validators. You can find many, many other examples of Java problems out there that are just problems and answers. So you don't necessarily need to have the online code editors and validators if you're looking for challenging problems that are just problems with solutions. Okay, let's move on. So next we want to look at some C# examples. Some of these will be similar to Java. The 2 I have here at the top also provide the online code editors with validation. There's a number of others that also have problems and solutions, but no code exercises, or excuse me, no built-in code editors. And then we'll talk about Project Euler down there at the bottom, which has some interesting theoretical problems. So let's look at W3 resource again. And we'll go to the C# side of the house. So this probably looks familiar. We looked at the Java equivalent of this, and so W3 resource also has some C# questions. So we can look at some data type exercises. We'll keep it easy. And again, if you'll remember, if you click on Go to the editor, it'll just take you way down to the bottom. There's not a ton of guidance here on the format that they want, so usually the easiest way to do this is to take a look at one of their solutions and figure out, oh, okay, this site wants us to create a class with a main method and so forth, and mimic what they're doing there. So everything that you could do on the Java side of the house, you should be able to do here for the C# side as well. And obviously a lot of different categories and so forth that you can use. Okay, we do have a question coming in. So is there any way to use these as homework grades within the course? So the CompuScholar courses have built-in grading with respect to the quizzes and the tests and the hands-on activities. Most likely you are exporting those grades to your own student information system. So there's an export process you can go through from our gradebook to export our grades into your student information system. So if you want to define homework as a 4th category, so to speak, in your student information system, and then have your students turn in answers to these things and then grade them yourself, you're certainly welcome to do that, and then add those grades into the mix, so to speak, in your student information system. There is not an easy way at the moment to expand the CompuScholar gradebook to additional teacher-specified exercises, but that's a good idea we can take a look at. All right. So let's look at the next one. The next one is at programmer.com, and notice the interesting spelling there. We've actually observed that the programmer.com website today has been kind of up and down. We do have a free account, but when we try and log in, the whole website seems to go down. So we'll avoid that for the moment and just kind of let you look around here without getting logged in. This website also has a number of different languages. We'll focus on C# here, but if you're interested in Java, you might find some good Java stuff here as well. So they've got these challenges, and for some reason they seem to be listed in order of reverse increasing difficulty, or I should say in decreasing difficulty. So the easy ones are down here at the bottom. All right, so let's just look at operators, for example, multiples of 3 and 5. And so at this point, it's asking you to log in, and I'm not going to try and do that here. Most likely it will work fine for you, but just our observation here over the last hour or so is that the website seems to be really sluggish or non-responsive when you try and log in. But my expectation is they will get that resolved pretty quickly. And then as you can see, there are dozens and dozens of challenging problems here. So your C# students could play around here to their heart's content. And across the top, there's a ton of other categories as well. So they may even have some cool stuff for SQL and C++ and so forth. Haven't spent a lot of time exploring that, but certainly you may wish to do that on your own. Okay. So those two, the W3 resource and the programmer.com, are the ones that should have the built-in editor and code validator. The rest of them that we're going to talk about are largely just kind of a listing of exercises with answers. And some of them are not even necessarily exercises per se. They're more just sample code. If I want to do X, Y, and Z, how would I do it? So we're on practice exercise C#.blogspot.com at the moment. And you can see if you manage to navigate your way through all the ads, they've got a number of different lessons here. So we can look at functions, for example. Scroll our way down, and we'll see what function returning a value looks like. Okay, so after you finally clicked and scrolled your way through, at the end of the day, what they're giving you is a program and then immediately a solution. So if you wanted to use this site for your students, most likely what you would do is not drive your students here directly, but you go off and find one or more problems like this and just kind of cut and paste them into a document that you can communicate to your students or put them up on your whiteboard and so forth. You can use them as part of your class discussions to talk your way through them, and it gives you a fully coded solution here as well. But notice there's no way to actually run that solution or tweak the source code. So this site is just a big list of problems and answers without some of the nicer bells and whistles. Okay, let's switch over to the longest URL, which is the worldsbestlearningcenter.com. And this one has, again, tutorials and exercises and that sort of thing on C# and probably some other languages as well. So you've got some categories here along the left. And you can see this is very similar to the site that we were just at, where it will give you an exercise that, again, you can extract and communicate to your students however you want. And then the solution is right here as well. So, so I've got a question. What's the best way to implement this in your classroom? I guess I may have covered that a little bit already, but just to reiterate, if it's a site with a built-in code validator and you want to send your students there directly and let them play, you can find specific links or URLs that you want them to go to or specific problems that you want them to complete, and just send them over there. And then again, use your own discretion if you want to have them create their own accounts or create an account for them and that sort of stuff. If it is a simpler site, it's just listing questions and answers, then certainly extract those questions and give them to your students in whatever way you see fit. It would be a little hard to drive, for example, if you had an advanced student that just wanted some challenging work to do, it might not be effective to send them over here where they might give you an interesting problem, but then immediately give you the answer, right? So it would take a more disciplined student to come up with those answers on their own, as opposed to just writing down the answers from the solutions here. So if it's an automatically validated sort of thing that doesn't easily present the solutions to the students, then you can send the students there directly. If you want to keep the solutions from them, you would want to extract the questions and just use those in your classroom as you see fit. All right, let's see what else we've got. So here's one more example. We're at sandfoundry.com, some C# programming examples. Now these are, if I recall, more examples about how to do things as opposed to kind of quiz problems or exercise problems. So again, it will present kind of a high-level description of the task that's going to be completed, and then a solution on how to do it and some sample output. So these don't seem to be necessarily written as a standalone problem. So for example, if you just cut and pasted the description for your students, I'm not certain they would leap right to the specific solution. There's not a lot of detail up here. But if you want to use these as the basis for a classroom discussion where you're talking through how to do something, this will give you plenty of ideas around the sorts of things that you can do in code, and then some concrete suggestions on how to implement those things. So this can certainly be a useful site, even if it's not a formal set of challenge exercises. All right, and then the last thing we wanted to look at is Project Euler. So this is kind of different in that it doesn't seem to be specific to any language, and it is definitely more advanced. So if we take a look at some of the problems, let's see. Let's go to recent. And this one does have a free account that you can register for in order to actually complete the exercises. Okay, I'm trying to find the list. It was somewhere obvious last time I visited. Where should I start? I want to start at the problem list. Nope. These are all people. I want to know where the problems are. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sign out here because I think my account is confusing things. Here we go. So before you even sign in, down at the bottom, there's a way to view the problems. So we can click on problems down here. That's part of the challenge itself, apparently, is finding the link down at the bottom. And here's an archive of all the problems. And you can see these are actually fairly mathematically intense. So this would be more for your advanced students. I'm just going to click on one here. And you can see the way they present this is there's a challenge, but there's no specification for what language you need to use or really how you need to solve it. And once you sign in, you will be able to actually attempt to solve the problem. And when you do that, it's just a matter of typing in the answer into the box and then validating to see if you got the answer correct. So this would be an exercise in writing the code on your own offline in whatever language you wanted to come up with the answer to these problems. And these problems tend to be fairly mathematical in nature. So just a quick scan down the middle here, right? And your eyes will start to cross pretty quickly, and unless you're a mathematician, which I am not. So there's a lot of challenge here, especially if you're in a class that is a mathematically centered class. There's a lot of things that you could have your students do. Let's take a look at another one. So asking you to make change in a number of different currencies, that's pretty cool. And there's, as you can see, that 50 times 12 or more pages worth of problems. There's an endless amount of entertainment here for your kids. Looks like almost 600 different problems here of a mathematical nature. So it might be kind of hard to find one that's on the level for your students, but if you've got some advanced students, you can certainly turn them onto this site and then challenge them to complete as many of the problems as they can. All right, let me switch back to the presentation. So we just finished going through all of the C# links. And again, the one at the bottom, Project Euler, is more theoretical, so you can complete those in any language. Let's go ahead. All right, so we've reached the CompuScholar forum section, which again, as promised, was a section we kind of dedicated at the end of each one of our webinars just to communicate some important announcements, solicit your feedback on any topic at all, and then we'll wrap up after that. So the first announcement I wanted to make is that we have a brand new support portal that is now live, and that support portal has a searchable knowledge base. It's got tickets you can create to track resolution to any problems that you have, and it's got some user forums as well. So I'm going to flip over to our website and just show you that. So this is our new CompuScholar website. And if you click on support, you'll be taken to our brand new support portal. And I'm going to log out here. So normally when you come into the support portal, you'll see knowledge base, you'll see a search box where you can search the knowledge base, frequently asked questions. If you'd like to create a ticket, you can log in and create a ticket, and that will give you some traceability as to what's going on, as opposed to just sending email back and forth. You are certainly welcome to continue to send us email as well if you prefer to do that for resolution. So we still cheerfully accept questions in all sorts of formats, but this support portal is just a new way for you guys to do that. So solutions up here, again, is just the knowledge base, and then the forums will point out. So we've got a forum for announcements, and then a different forum for each one of our courses. So these are brand new, and someone has to break the ice on brand new forums. So we certainly encourage you to do that. This is a way for you to connect with the community of CompuScholar teachers that are out there, either in general or that are working through the same course that you are. So if you've got suggestions for new features, you've got questions about how to do something, please come on out to the forums and put your thoughts out there and help spark a discussion. We would appreciate that. Okay. So we talked about the support portal. I did want to preview the next topic. So next month, we're going to be talking about industry certification exams. So this is something that has been increasingly more important over the years as federal funding and that sort of thing tends to reward schools and districts for producing high schoolers that have certificates from Oracle and Microsoft and that sort of thing. So we will drill into that topic next month. Okay, so I'll open the door to any final questions you have about either the webinar today or anything else you'd like to talk about from a CompuScholar perspective. Okay, I do have one question here. It says, can these links be integrated into the course material? So the links that I showed you today are all third-party links. We don't own them. We can't guarantee that they will be around in the same format forever. And even if they are around, the contents of them may change pretty dynamically. So we would be hesitant to really interweave links to these things throughout the course material, as those links might become stale and they're not ours to begin with. We can evaluate putting some of these links perhaps at the very beginning in one of the early teacher's guides for the course. So if you're in a Java course, perhaps the first teacher's guide might list these links. But again, the links are up there in our blog. Let me show you how to get to that. Okay, so from the main homepage, click on Public-Private Schools, and then blog. Here's sources of coding practice problems conveniently posted today. And here's a link to everything. And so this is an article that we can update over time. If you have suggestions for other coding sites that we missed, we'd love to hear it. We can always come in here and add these. So of course, please do reach out to us if you've got suggestions for other up and coming coding sites that you'd like to recommend to others. All right, any other questions before we wrap it up for the day? I'll give you just a minute here. Okay, I'm not seeing any come in, so we appreciate your time. We're pleased that you joined us either live or watching the recording. Again, if you have any follow-up thoughts afterwards, you're welcome to email me directly or contact us through our website, or even pick up the phone and give us a call. We always love hearing from you. So thanks again for joining, and we will see you next month.